Good evening, everybody, and you're very welcome along to this week's Cop Council podcast here on Anfield Agenda. My name is Craig, and as always, I've brought on the brightest and the best for you guys to talk all things Liverpool. This week, I'm joined by Daz, by Chris, and by Tom. And gents, as always, we'll get straight into listeners' questions. And Tom, I'm going to come to you first for the first one, buddy. If you had to choose one of the following, which would it be? A. Karius as our number one goalie for next season. B. A full week of living with and listening to Duncan Castles and having to like everything he puts on Twitter. Or 3. Having Big Sam as a replacement for Buvac. And that's sent in from a hipster78. It's a great question.
For me, it's quite easy actually, and it would genuinely be Karius as number one for next season because I have a personal hatred, a very strong personal hatred for Duncan Castles, and I can't find anything that he puts on Twitter, have any credibility whatsoever. And Allardyce as our assistant manager, no fucking way. I can't stand that huge fat bastard. Well, he'll just start like bringing all his kebabs and shit to the touchline. It'll just be all greasy and nah. I can't have that shit house near my team.
You always wanted Kevin Nolan in a Liverpool shirt. Tell the truth.
Kevin, fuck off.
Big Kev. That's all our problem solved. He can do defensively, midfield, front attack. He can do it all.
There was a time I'd have taken him, to be honest.
Doing the chicken dance? No way. Nah, you can fuck off. I'd rather give me the Sturridge dance all day over the chicken dance.
But Fat Sam is a pioneer in football, Tom. He was the first person to have the lads cycling on bicycles at the edge of the pitch.
Did you say pioneer or pie eater?
Yeah, exactly. I was just saying, it's just pie.
I think both are correct, to be fair. Chris, for you, mate, which one of the three would it be? You look like a Duncan Castles fan. Tell me it's true.
Yeah, love him. I've got a punch bag, looks just like him.
Don't talk about your missus like that, for fuck's sake.
She doesn't listen to the pods anymore, you're all right. Tom's nailed it there, hasn't he? Just Karius. At least we know he's a red. At least that's red. As long as he's a red, I can suffer him. So that couldn't be doing with Castles. Just really couldn't be doing. And I wouldn't want Sam. I don't even want Sam at the club as an away manager. Never mind.
But just think, we could get Sam a seat in the dugout and make him face the wrong way. So we could say, look, you have to sit in the corner there and face into the corner.
So the poor bastards in the stand have to look at his face.
We'll put him in the corner. We'll just give him like an apple pie and custard or something and just let him sit in the corner tucking away on it.
You'd employ him as a number 2 or number 3 just to feed him. He'd love that. Like.
Get him a little sponsorship, yo. Give him a little Aunt Bessie's top. He can sit in the corner with his apple pie. He'd be happy as a pig in shit. And the thing about Duncan Castles, though, Chris, is we'd have to put up with Karius. I know that's not too nice to say, but if we're all agreeing that Karius isn't the best goalkeeper in the world anymore, you only have to put up with Duncan Castles for a week, Chris. I mean, that's just 1 week out of your life. You're talking about a whole season of potential pain.
Not really, no, because I didn't get a whole season of potential pain out of him this season, did I, in fairness?
You got a whole season of potential pain in 90 minutes out of him, to be fair. Not
even 90 minutes. It was all, No, not going down that route. I'm not slamming him for things he hasn't done. But there is an alternative. If we bring Big Sam in, we could just stick him in goal. He'll fill it. No one's getting near them. No one's putting the ball past him either.
Just give him a medium T-shirt as well when he comes. That's all we had, Sam. That's all we had.
Please don't. He wouldn't
be fastening the top button on the collar, would he?
He definitely wouldn't be fast. And then we just make Sammy Lee stand in the corner and go, Sammy, you think about what you've done. You think about this, Sammy.
Oh dear me.
Daz, what about you?
I'll go with Karius. Move on. Go on.
2 Karius. Is he gonna go make it a hat trick, Daz?
I was going to say that, but on the other hand, I was going to bring up about this with Karius with the concussion for the Champions League final, and I was going to say I would go with Karius because apparently he only had a concussion for the final, whereas the other 2, for me, are just complete headaches all round all year. So yeah, it would be Karius. But yeah, I want to know what you guys will make on this Karius stuff. For me, apparently after having these scans, Karius, 26 out of 30 of the tests said that from Ramos's challenge on Karius, he had concussion in the Champions League final. For me, I don't know what you guys make of this, but the timing's very off with this. Is this Liverpool now saying we're going to stick with Karius in goal next year? I had to bring this up because of this question. I'm sorry.
It's no, Sam, and I wouldn't say the timing's off at all, because that's when you get diagnosed with concussion after you've had a head trauma. So it's pretty good timing, to be perfectly honest. And concussion manifests itself more or less immediately after impact, and can be detected up to a few weeks after the head trauma. I don't know if you guys know much about concussion. I've suffered it many times playing football myself. You don't really know you've got it yourself. You always get that groggy feeling, don't you, when you've taken a hit to the head anyway, but you don't know that you've got concussion. And it.
Do you not remember the all-reliable question, Chris, when they used to run onto the pitch for you? What did you have for breakfast this morning? Like, the stupid fucking things that, like, are the most useless questions. And you want to be asking somebody, like, what they did in 1984 or something.
Well, yeah. There's loads of little tests for it, but none of them happened. The game carried on, didn't it? So you just, nobody walked up to him, how many fingers am I holding up, anything like that.
How many footballs are we kicking at you?
No, but in all likelihood, if medical professionals have said he's got concussion, he's got concussion. And the only head trauma he had was the elbow from Ramos. So you can't argue with it. It's within the time frame. I've got absolutely no problems with that. If the kid's got concussion, he's got concussion. And I know what concussion does. It shakes the brain violently in the head, and it basically reduces brain function. So i.e. that will mess with it can mess with your sight, it can mess with your hearing, it can mess with your speech, it can mess with your balance, your decision making, your reaction speeds, everything. And then you add on top of that he's playing in a Champions League final under massive pressure, blah, 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 blah. Don't need to go on. There's very likelihood his mistakes or poor performance, I would say poor performance because you're looking at a whole 90 minutes. He wasn't bad for a whole 90 minutes. He started the game very well and snuffed out a few things that they did going forward quite well. But he made mistakes, and those are mistakes that are literally so dopey. I think you can literally put them down to that. I think.
What I will say here, Chris, is
I don't think anyone's clutching it. It's not that. I just don't think anyone's clutching at straws. It's very much a very good reason for why it happened. Really, you can't really argue with that. It's science. I'm not arguing with science.
No, what I will say is I agree. From a medical standpoint of view, it's brilliant that players are being tested for things that might have gone undetected years ago. And we've seen in American football and other sports, concussion and brain injury suffered through impact has got much worse, or we've been aware that it's become much worse through testing over the last few years. So from a medical standpoint, I think it's a very serious subject that we don't want to undermine or underplay at all. That I'm after going online here and checking the Massachusetts hospital's test for concussion, and 25 of the 26 questions were, is Ramos a cunt?
Positive.
To which he replied positively, yes, every time.
I think
there was 4 that wasn't. So there's definitely something wrong with him if those were the questions, Craig, because the answer 4 is no, he's not a cunt.
I said 26 of the 30 questions were Ramos a cunt.
I thought you said all of them. All right, fair enough.
For me, talking about this, what I was saying about this and what I'm seeing online, I think what it comes down to for me is there was already a question marks over Karius's head. And I think for me personally, people going into this transfer window was already still saying, should Liverpool be signing a number 1 goalkeeper? And then as this now has come out, you've got more people that was already saying, we should be getting a number 1 goalkeeper now, saying, I feel sorry for Karius. Concussion. I get that. I do feel sorry for him. He's took a blow to the head. Concussion's very serious. I'm not saying that it's not, but with the transfer window here, with us being linked with these top goalkeepers, and then all of a sudden the timing of this, when I say about the timing, I mean, we're being linked in a transfer market with Oblak, albeit a rumour, Alisson, even Butland, you name it, all these goalkeepers. And then now this comes out about Karius with concussion. Liverpool stick with Karius. There was question marks already over his head. Karius didn't have concussion when he made other mistakes in between the sticks for me. Before when he first got brought into the team, Klopp had spoke about he wasn't ready, before when he got his chance. And then Mignolet got back in between the sticks and then Mignolet got pulled out. For me, I don't know. Yes, in the Champions League, this is when it's come down to when he had that. And yes, I agree. For me, the ultimate thing is Ramos shouldn't have done what he did. And I do feel sorry for Karius. But on the other hand, the timing of this coming out, will Liverpool use this as an excuse not to go in to the transfer window now and buy a goalkeeper? That is what I ultimately mean with the timing of this. It's not about, when the tests come out, is it the right timing to say that he had concussion or whatever? Is this now going to be the time that Liverpool are going to go, you know what, we're not going to spend 60, 70 million on a goalkeeper because our goalkeeper wasn't shit. It was just he had a wobbly half of a game because he took a knock to the head from Ramos. That is what I wanted to ask you guys.
It's a fair question. And Tom, I've had my say on it and Chris has had a bit of a say in it. What do you think?
I agree about, it's a very serious subject and medically these tests have to be done and it has to be released, etc., etc. But just on a kind of like, I'll go on a personal level. It's like, well, it's over a week ago now since the final. Like I'm pretty over it. It's still kind of raw, it's still quite soon after it, but I'm relatively over it now. But it's just like, it's like kind of digging up your dead pet or something like that and just bringing it all back. And it's just like, just keep it in the ground. Just keep it in there. That's where it belongs. It's done. It's dead. It's over. But I get, like I said, I get that it's got to come out. It's just a bit annoying that we got to think about it again, and it looks like potentially we'll use it as an excuse. I'm not saying that's why they did these tests, but I'm just saying, a lot of fans anyway, and a lot of media will be saying stuff like that. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say on it. I just wish it would I just wish to forget that final, to be honest.
I think that's what it comes down to. I think it literally comes down to the fact that all Liverpool fans are still raw over the final, still raw over losing. Ramos is a prick, and that is why everyone is so sore about this.
Chris?
Yeah, it's about the timing thing. I really don't see how there's an issue with the timing of this at all. Obviously, like Tom's just pointed out, the timescale is just over a week. And in just over a week, if a week later you're still suffering symptoms, you go see a doctor sends you to a specialist, you go and have scans, you do tests, so on and so forth. That's this injury. I mean, we also saw that Mo Salah was going for tests, and we heard about the results for that. So I don't think, this is just like he sustained an injury during a football match. He's been for tests and now we've heard of the results. It's what we expect to do with any player from any player. And I don't think the fact that it's Karius is the reason that this has just come out, because if it had happened to Dejan Lovren and he had taken an elbow to the head, or if it had happened to Sadio Mane and he'd taken a blow to the head, just like Mo Salah got injured, they would go for tests on a certain day at a certain place, and those places had released the results, and the club would let the fans know what those results are. I don't think it's got anything to do with the links. We've had links for a long time, and Daz is right. There's been question marks over him, but I think they were subsiding, and I don't think anybody would have had a problem whatsoever with Karius starting next season as number one for Liverpool. I don't think anybody would have had a problem, and then all of a sudden he has this lapse, whether it's down to the concussion or whether it's down to pressure of the game or whether, just general brain farts, whatever. I don't know what happened. All I'm saying is scientifically it's possible that a concussion caused the problems he had in the game. Putting that to one side, what I'm saying is all of a sudden we're fabricating mistakes, regular mistakes. These question marks over Karius came where we were the best defensive side over a 28 game period in the Premier League or something. The best defensive side, that includes the goalkeeper, and he was the goalkeeper.
Can I just wind it back though? Just think of the game before against Roma. We did have a warning of his mishandling of a shot and his flapping at a strike that went onto the crossbar, and we were lucky to get away with that one.
I could point you to hundreds of clips of hundreds of goalkeepers, some top goalkeepers. De Gea does it. They all do it, don't they? And then it doesn't go in, and it's a let off, and nobody mentions it. But if he'd have had a good game, if he'd
He was
made
having a
no
good game,
mistakes,
as you said,
yeah,
for the
well,
first
what I'm saying
25
is if
minutes,
he'd have
Harry
made
was
no
brilliant.
mistakes, if he'd have made no mistakes in that final, nobody would have mentioned that near miss.
I think that's a fair point, Chris.
You know,
And I think he had won over a lot of Liverpool fans that were doubters about him. And he had me on side as well, if I'm being honest. I would have been in the doubters camp, but I was all up for us getting a comparable keeper to come in and challenge him. So I have to admit to being a little bit of a hypocrite, and that final has tainted me a little bit. But Daz, you put the question to us, mate. What do you think?
Yeah, I fully get what you're saying with it all. I was the same. I was saying before the Champions League final, I was saying, look, it looks to me like Jurgen Klopp is going to stick with Karius next year. I didn't think we was going to go out there and sign a big goalkeeper like a lot of people were saying. The one concern that I have now is either way, this is going to have knocked his confidence. So whether we sign a goalkeeper or we don't, whether it's someone that's going to be number one or number two, Karius he's going to really have felt this. So that's something that I feel that I worry about for him personally. Will it end his career? I don't think it will end his career at all, like people are saying. I think Karius, will come back from this, but if he drops to number two at Liverpool, this would be the second time that he come into Liverpool thinking that he's now number one, and then pushed to number two. That's going to have a knock-on effect. Whether he had the concussion or not, to lose a Champions League final like that, us as fans, now how hard that is to swallow. He was part of that. Those boys are going to be feeling that just as much as us, if not more, because it was in their hands. We couldn't change how that game ended. Those boys will feel like they did because they could have, because they was there and they was part of it. Karius will take a lot of blame for that. He is already, and he will be feeling that a lot more than most. So yeah, I think going into next year, whether he's number one or number two, his confidence is going to be so low. So I have to agree with some of the points that have been brought up about Karius, and I think, yes, everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes, but my overall concern for him going forwards is his confidence is going to be so low either way now. So is it the right time to drop him, or is it the right time to replace him? I don't think there's a right answer to that. I really don't, because if you do drop him and replace him, he's never going to recover. But if you don't, and his confidence is low, all the fans are going to be waiting for that first mistake. So as soon as he does fumble, as soon as he does miskick it, everyone's going to jump on him. That's only going to make his confidence worse even more.
That is a very fair point, guys. From a standpoint of whether it was the brain injury or not that caused him to make the errors, that may well affect his confidence going forward. And if he is put in a high pressurised situation, Chris, perhaps like another Champions League final, is himself and the players around him going to have those lingering doubts?
Well, from a psychological standpoint, if he firmly believes that any mistakes he made were down to having concussion from a blow to the head from Ramos's elbow, then he won't be blaming himself. So from his personal point of view, he'll still be confident that he's a good goalkeeper. So I have no worries from his point of view in that case, in that scenario. The worry is, like Daz pointed out, it's fans. And we can be a fickle bunch, because on one hand, we've got this very good goalkeeper who is behind a very good defence. We're turning corners with regards to the way we're defending, and all of those players, including Karius, were part of that. And then we see a bad game. It hurts, and we're hurt, and we're scolded by it. So therefore, we look to throw stones at him. And up until finding this out, I wasn't happy with him. I wasn't in... I wasn't going to harangue him over it, because I don't do that to players. And if Klopp chooses to upgrade to a new goalkeeper, then that's Klopp's choice, and I'm feeling behind that. But if Klopp also chooses to make him number one, I just hope that the fans just get behind that and support the lad, because he didn't go into any game hoping to make a mistake, trying to make a mistake or two in this case, and he hadn't displayed any level of performance that says he was just going to capitulate between getting the number one spot back and that game. So you've got to trust Klopp on this one and hope that he makes the best decision. And if Klopp chooses to keep him as number one, then I just hope the fans get behind it and don't do what Daz just said and start groaning and whatever it is they do to make players feel uneasy, because it can be quite a daunting task when fans do that. And We could do that to a new goalkeeper, couldn't we? You know, we'll be on top of the world if we signed Alisson, for example. And then the first time he comes out and tries to take on a winger like he did against Mo Salah, loses the ball and almost concedes a goal, then doubts set in, and then the fans are on him. Because I don't know if you remember him doing that. Had Karius done that, which we've never seen him do, we'd be going apeshit. But a top goalkeeper who everybody wants to replace Karius does that in front of us, and it's just one instance. Well,
it's a fair point. And also, often at times we see these players week in, week out, as you've said, but we only see highlights or clips of players that we might want to bring in or players that we fancy. So, Chris, it's an absolute pleasure always having you on this podcast, mate, because you're the voice of sensibility out there. And especially for me as a fan, I know I'm very emotional and very fickle. So to get the viewpoint across of somebody who's sane and not angry like I am, it's always a pleasure, mate. And Tom, you haven't spoken on this in a while, buddy. What's your take on this? Do you think, one, that this might be a sign that the club are going to stand by Karius and give him the confidence to go forward into next season, knowing that it could have not been his fault as such? Or do you think that we're still going to go and sign up a goalkeeper?
Before I answer that, the first thing I want to say is I literally just went on Twitter and the Mirror have already put up an article of what I was talking about, saying Liverpool fans call for a rematch of the Champions League final after scans reveal Loris Karius suffered concussion. And it's literally got I don't think it's got a single tweet actually quoted in the article. So this is what I mean. This is why I was why I'm a bit pissed off, because this is just going to be
for a rematch.
Yeah, exactly. It's just an absolute joke.
Yeah, as if any of us are going to say, let's have a rematch. That's what we want. We deserve a rematch.
No one has fucking said that. So just fuck off. Stop with your clickbait shite. But on the actual Karius situation, it's I don't see Liverpool sticking with him now. Like I just don't. I think the signs have been there. You know, we were looking at Alisson in January. Yes, it cooled when Karius played well. Then he didn't play well, and now it's all hotted up again. To me, the signs are quite clear that we're going for a new goalkeeper. Pretty much every single reliable source at the start of the summer was saying that we're looking at a goalkeeper, as well as Fekir and Keita coming in. We're going to look at a goalkeeper and probably another signing. So to me, it seems like we're still on for a keeper right now, and I'd be happy with that. I mean, yes, the final has tainted my opinion, and like you, Craig, before the final, I was warming to the idea of keeping Karius rather than shelling out 70, 80 million. I was still a bit skeptical, but I will say, I was more than happy to probably keep him. But now, sadly, it has tainted my opinion. I was never a fully, strong Karius supporter, but I thought he was better. But now I just think if we're going to make that step up, why not go get a quality keeper? You see other teams have them. De Gea, I know Courtois dropped off a bit, but when they won the title, he was an absolute hero. Those players literally win you like 15 points a season potentially, especially De Gea. You look at him and how much impact he's had on that team. And if we're going to make that step up, then we're going to need a new keeper, I think, personally. If
we're looking at the keepers that we're being linked with, or the high echelons of goalkeepers in this world, and the keepers that we all want, it really boils down to two, gents. I think it's fair to say if we could go out there now and handpick two keepers, it's probably going to be a choice between Oblak and Alisson. I could be wrong. Maybe one of you guys disagree on that, but I think that's the general consensus, or that's the most talked about two goalkeepers on Twitter, for instance, between Liverpool fans. So for you, Daz, if I was to say, look, price isn't an issue here, just go and grab me a keeper who you think would best fit into this team, who would it be?
I would go with Oblak out of the two, just for the pure fact that I think Alisson, if I'm looking at the two styles, I think Alisson's better with his feet from what I've seen, which probably suits Liverpool in that sense, the way we play out from the back quite a bit. But Oblak seems more calm and collected in a sense of with his hands. He seems like he reassures me more. If I watch him play, he seems, I don't know, Liverpool for too long for me. I don't want to see keepers parry the ball too much. I want to see a keeper that will come out and collect those crosses. Whereas I felt like for quite a long time now, I feel like our keepers don't always fill me with confidence when it comes to collecting the ball and bringing the ball in. I want to see someone that's a bit more calmer. And Alisson seems like a top keeper, but he also seems like he's too quick to push a ball away. And no matter how much his price is out there, it does worry me that Alisson, could be the sort of goalkeeper that could come in, and we've seen that our defence has switched off in times in games. If Alisson was to parry the ball a couple of times and our defence switched off and we conceded a couple of goals, then people would start to jump on Alisson like we was talking about earlier. A keeper just coming in, I think Oblak would fill me with a bit more confidence than what Alisson probably would. So I would say Oblak for me.
Chris?
It's tough. It's all modern goalkeepers parry the ball. It's a bit of a directive in the game. It's to counteract spilling the ball and players coming in and nicking the ball and scoring. But if you watch Oblak, he parries the ball a lot and has his defenders on top of him clearing the ball. I don't think he'll get too much of that at Liverpool. They do play quite a deep line. The team he does. So I've never seen him display what's needed to be in our team. But in terms of a shot stopper, he is pretty much second to none. But being that I haven't really seen the facets of his game that we're going to be looking for on top of being a good shot stopper, then I'm not sure I believe it's worth spending the money. But what do I know? Alisson, I've seen him a number of times this season, and I've seen him do some spectacular things with the ball at the feet. I've also seen him embarrass himself a little bit and get away with it a few times. I'm not a big fan of that. I do like a keeper who will use his feet, but there's times and places, but I'm pretty sure that could be sort of honed on, coached into him a bit, but to know when to do it. Just as good a shot stopper as Oblak, just as likely to hold on the ball and parry it as Oblak. It's just silly money for a goalkeeper, isn't it? If you're buying a goalkeeper for that money, you've got to be damn sure that not only is he the best in the world, but best in the world by some distance. And I'm not certain we're getting the best goalkeeper in the world for that money. So, and also, as much as we have a lot of money now, we still spend it quite frugally, don't we? I mean, I think we genuinely believe we got the best centre-back in the world when we signed Virgil van Dijk, and there was a bit of a we pissed Southampton off tax on there, wasn't there? Whereas if we look at all of our other signings, everything's been about keeping the costs down as much as we possibly can. I'm not certain we're going to go out and spend that kind of money on them too. I think if something can be done whereby Oblak we aren't hitting his release clause, or Roma take a small hit on Alisson, maybe. But it could be either or. If I was to pick one, whichever one I want, I would say Alisson, but on the proviso that he's willing just to tone it down a little bit.
It's a very solid answer as always, Chris. Thank you. Tom, what about you on this one, buddy? Any preference?
I mean, I'm happy with either. I'm just going to put that out there because I think they're two of the best keepers in the world right now. Partly because I'm not sure who else we could get that's actually available. And I understand Chris's reservations about spending that much money. And I also agree, and I think with every football fan as well, that the money in football nowadays is genuinely just completely stupid and batshit crazy. We're looking at paying 70 to 80 million for a goalkeeper. But money kind of has no sense now in football. So let's just kind of draw a line under that and just kind of look at it as the climate right now. If we're looking at getting one of those two top class keepers, I think that could have the same, almost as similar effect as Van Dijk had on our defense. As a new keeper coming in, he could genuinely make us so much stronger and look so much better at the back. And for me, the one that pips it, which I think is actually against what most people think, because I feel like most people actually prefer Oblak. I saw some polls on Twitter, and I feel like it was about 80-20 in favour of Oblak the other day. That's just off the top of my head. But I'd actually think I'd rather Alisson. And I understand people's reservations about him being maybe a bit too cocky on the ball. He's only really had one great season so far. He's had a couple of mishaps again this season. I think there was a couple of games where he hasn't been amazing. But what he can do with the ball at his feet is absolutely it's only comparable really to Ederson at the moment. And he gets Ederson out of the Brazil team, which means that he is probably better than Ederson or better than him doing that sort of stuff. And that could genuinely change the way we play at the back, because imagine him pinging it out to Trent or something on the right, and then he's going to ping it out to Salah, or doing a long ball up to Mane in behind, etc., etc. So I think in terms of how we can how a goalkeeper could affect the team, I feel like Alisson would probably be my preferred choice.
It's a really tough question, and all you guys have made really, really valid points. I feel like it's kind of a halfway house between both for different reasons. One of them, as you said, is really nifty with his feet. Can certainly get us to get out past the press, for instance, by just launching a 40 or 50-yard diagonal ball straight over the press, straight to the midfield. But on the other hand, you have Jan Oblak, who, as Chris said, is one of the best shot stoppers in the world, one of the most confident keepers in the world, and has played at the highest level, especially in European football, at a really good club that competes in all competitions for a solid 4 years now, I think 4 or 5 years, whereas Alisson has only just really come in as Roma's number one this year after Szczesny moved on to Juventus. So it's a really tough call, and I'd probably side with Alisson for the reason that Tom and Chris has mentioned, just for his feet. But I would say, actually, it's really tough, but I would say is if we do sign a keeper like Alisson, we're almost going to have to come on and remind ourselves as fans that mistakes are going to be made. Because if you want a keeper like Ederson plays out from the back, you want a keeper like Alisson to play out from the back, one time in every 50, one time in every 30, they're going to fuck up. They're going to give the ball away. They're going to try a turn that doesn't come off, and we're going to concede. Or
they're going to run to the edge of the box, try Maitland Salzburg, and get dinked by most. You know what I mean? That was terrible goalkeeping in that game. I know I've plumped for Alisson, but I'm pointing things out. We were marvelling at what a good goal Mo Salah scored there when he dinked him. And had that been Dzeko dinking Karius, we'd have gone apeshit at Karius, wouldn't we?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be Liverpool without a bit of risk, though. I mean, can you imagine Alisson doing some nice Cruyff turns in the box and everyone on the edge of their... Everyone's on the edge of their seat.
I'm just thinking like what... I'm just saying what Craig said there. It doesn't matter what goalkeeper you have. They're going to make mistakes, but they're not mistakes when it's other people's goalkeepers and it's your forward scoring. So, we have to look at it's magnified because we watch them every game, every week, all season. And no keeper's perfect. Just some off are better than others. And there are better keepers out there than Karius. And yes, it would be better for us if we upgrade. Whether it's them two or not, there are plenty of good goalkeepers around. And I think we could pick... I think if you're spending the world record on a goalkeeper, you need to be damn sure you're getting the best keeper in the world. And even he will make mistakes.
Are we all comfortable that Oblak or Alisson are of a higher standard than Karius? Or would we be all comfortable to say it's an upgrade?
Without a doubt. 100%. Maybe Karius could be better than them one day. We don't know. I know I'll probably get laughed at for saying that, but you don't know. Whereas right now we know they are better goalkeepers. You can't argue.
And Alisson gives Karius a run for his money for his Instagram game because he is another sexy looking keeper. Have you seen his lovely beard and his hair? And he's Brazilian as well, so he'll be good mates with Bobby.
Looks like a Brazilian Daz, doesn't he?
And Fabinho. Oh, fuck off. Yeah, he is. Daz. You're Alisson, mate. Nice.
Let's call him Daz Becker from here on out.
Daz Becker. Nice. I like it.
Gents, look, we got to move on. That was only listeners' question number 1, but what a conversation that turned out to be. Okay. Question number 2 was the real topic that everybody wants to know about, and this comes in from Dave Henry from Twitter, who actually going to be joining the pod next week, so I'm looking forward to having Dave on. What he wants to know, Chris, is have you ever actually seen a baby pigeon?
I have, yeah, actually. But I'm trying to think. Right, I've seen an actual baby pigeon, but then there was this lad I know. His party piece in nightclubs was to walk around asking, have you seen, or outside nightclubs, have you seen this baby pigeon? And he'd have his hands cut down below, and then he'd uncup his hands and he'd literally just pulled his ball bag out of his zipper.
Do you remember everything I said about you being a sensible one on the podcast, mate? You can fucking scratch that. You're hanging around with sexual predators, for fuck's sake.
To be honest, mate, I used to crawl up the arse when he did it. I really did. But so I'm wondering if this question was that baby pigeon. I'm gonna say it's like, I don't know if it's like an army thing. It's like a couple of squaddies and ex-squaddies who both used to do it. I don't know if it's some kind of squaddy thing. I don't know. But yeah, I've seen an actual baby pigeon, yeah. So I've seen both. unfortunately.
Have you seen either, mate?
I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't know they looked so similar, but
don't actually.
That's what I mean.
I mean, are only half of baby pigeons circumcised, or do half of them have like their turtleneck chopped off? Or
one is very much looks like, you know, a baby bird, and the other one kind of looks like an adult, sparsely plucked chicken, I would say. So yeah, they don't look anything like each other.
What was the joke someone used to say when they used to grab the lad and run around saying "last chicken at Sainsbury's" or something like that?
Yeah.
Tom, have you ever seen an actual flying baby pigeon with wings, and not one of Chris's mates getting his lad out?
What? Could they fly? Do they have wings? I don't know. Do baby pigeons have wings, or do they?
They have wings, but they don't fly.
Well, there we go. I think that answers your question, because I've never seen one, so I don't even know if they have wings or not. So no, the answer's no. No, I haven't. I'm afraid.
In the woods surrounding your manor that you live in, if you go out past the drawbridge, over past the lake, and you go past the outhouses, surely to God in that 20-acre forest you have there in the centre of London, that there's a few pigeons floating around somewhere, Tom, on your property.
There are pigeons. I haven't seen a baby one. What I will tell you about, actually, which it's this kind of running thing that's going on, right? There's this crow that fucking haunts me in my house. I swear to God. It tapped on my window about like a month ago, right? And apparently, I've read up on it. Apparently, they get confused by their reflection, and it comes and taps on the window. And it did it late at night, and I see it, and it does it on the neighbour's one as well. It sits on the fence and goes and taps the window, and then it watches me. It watches me from the fence, like through my window and through the door, and it sits on the hut. It's a fucking massive crow. It's not like some little one. It's not a baby crow. It's this big fuck off crow. And then there's this massive tree at the end of my garden. It just sits there scouting around. And then I came home the other day and it was nice weather, and it's just on top of my fucking house. I'll get a pic. No one will be able to see this that's listening, but I'll get it up for you guys to react to. Look,
I don't want anyone to say I'll get it up after the conversation we just had a second ago.
Fucking crows just making itself known.
Fucking Lord of the Manor there. Look at him.
It actually is. So I'm having this running like.
It's got a nest in the tree next to your house or something.
I don't give a fuck if it's got a nest.
It actually lives there.
It needs to stop whacking on my windows.
Headline in the Daily Mail now next week: immigrant crows distract owners of houses while other crows come in and rob them while they're distracted.
At least it's not a bollock just tapping on your window every now and then.
It would be a lot worse. Chris's mate, have you seen this?
It's getting confused. It keeps looking at itself in the reflection.
That's very true.
Daz, have you seen a baby crow or pigeon? I don't even know anymore what we're talking about. Baby pigeon.
I haven't seen a baby crow knocking on my window. I haven't seen a baby pigeon. I definitely ain't seen a bollock chase me around a nightclub or anything. So, no, I haven't, mate, to be honest. It all sounds fun, though.
I think three out of four of us have been unlucky enough not to see a baby pigeon. I think Chris is the only one of us that has actually seen a baby pigeon. Right, The next question is far more sensible, and it comes in from @DavidOwens88. And Chris, what he wants to know is the Brazilian 82 team still the best team not to win a World Cup?
No, it's not. Can't be, can it? It's got to be a better team that hasn't won a World Cup.
It's a good question. It's one that you could probably think about a long time.
I am thinking. I've just answered no, and I'm thinking, could there have been?
I've got one.
Tom, there's a black and white fella behind you, Tom. Want your attention?
The Italy side, the Italy side in '94 was pretty good.
Not good enough to beat the Republic of Ireland, I might add.
No, they got to the final though, didn't they? Roberto Baggio miss penalty in the shootout? Well, that was
deserved it for that haircut. To be fair,
I think that Brazil side was the best Brazil side ever, but I think the Italy side that they beat was pretty outstanding as well. But I'm only going off like my memory, as growing up and the sides I've seen. So for me, I'm going to go for the 94 Italy side.
Chris, you're roughly the same age as me. Wasn't there supposedly an amazing Dutch team in the 70s that should have probably won a World Cup?
Well, yeah, so, I'm thinking that, but I'm only going off what I've been told. I mean, the Dutch, it was the Dutch and the Germans, wasn't it? and the Brazilians as well in the 70s, and I think that was the birth of total football in the 70s, wasn't it? With every player able to play every position. The Dutch sort of revolutionised football in the 70s. But I didn't witness it. I've only seen clips of players, Cruyff turns, this, that, and the other. So I can't really say from experience. So only from experience I can say, Italy in '94.
Well, then we seen Fat Sam take that total football and run with it last season at Everton, completely changing up the game, Tom.
In terms of well, I'm a bit younger than you lot, right? So I'm not all clued up on all the old World Cup squads. So I'm just going to go with first off, it's going to be, my first answer is England 2018, because, they're a quality side with Jake Livermore and et al., and they're not going to win the World Cup. And the other one is, it's not really a World Cup one, but it's the England 2006 team, I think, is one of the most underachieving teams. Just because you literally go through that team and pretty much every single player is an absolute beast. Like you got Gerrard, Lampard, Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, Sol Campbell, probably Paul Scholes, who was up front.
In terms of individuals, it was a pretty good side, wasn't it? We had a rafter of forwards available to us as well at the time that never
exactly.
so many.
Didn't that squad include Darren Anderton?
Well, it did also include Peter Crouch, a quality player, as we all know. David Beckham as well was still playing then. John Terry, forgot about him.
Anderson was a bit before that, wasn't he?
Anderson wasn't in that squad. And Wayne Rooney when he was good, before he was getting shipped out by his boyhood club. So, man for man, you'd have backed that side to do a lot better. Yeah, like that first 11 was just like every single player was just an absolute beast, and you just think, they should have done way better than what they actually did. So it's a bit of a cop out, but
was that perhaps
going back to older World
11
Cups?
Players who weren't a team though? There were 11 individuals that didn't gel. They weren't the best team. The best group of players.
That's together. Exactly right. Because if you go back to older World Cups, and Craig will tell you about, we were on about it off air. The Ireland side in '90 and '94, they played some great stuff. They put the fear of God up teams. Nobody wanted to play them. And Scotland around that time as well. They weren't made up of stars, but they had some handy players, didn't they? Like Colin Hendry and John Collins and Paul Lamb, players like that. Ali McCoist, and nobody wanted to play them. They gave everybody a game, and because they played as a team. And then you've seen the England sides, just masses and masses of players with all of the ability in the world, and they've just never been able to click it together, have they? I don't know whether it's the managers or an attitude or whatever it is, but we've had some massively underachieving sides.
You've also got to look at then, I suppose, the Greek side that won the Euros. I mean, fucking hell, how did that team go and win the Euros? Like, they defended their way to the Euros, Daz, what for you? Do you remember that team? That Brazilian side, or is that before your time?
That was a bit before my time. I was going to go with that England team because I just remember everyone saying that's all right, mate. Everyone was just saying we should win it because of the players that we had, And I think you already hit the nail on the head saying that it wasn't a team at all. You had all the individuals there. Everyone would have wanted them players in their team, but it never gelled, and I don't think it ever would as well. You could go back and play that over and over and over, and they just wouldn't win it. But for me, those boys that was in that team, it was there. Everyone was saying, we're going to win it, we're going to win it. It was never going to happen, was it? No matter whether you say it was the manager that was wrong or whatever, there was players in there. Just because you've got, I think if you look at Liverpool at the moment, you don't necessarily have to have all the best players in the world in a team. It's like what I like about Jurgen Klopp. He will build you a team. He will build you a squad, and I think that's what England have never really had. They've never really had a great team that worked well together.
Yeah, I absolutely fucking hate international football.
We did. Euro 96, we were absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. So unlucky not to win that. But do you know what? We're not thinking France have had some very good sides that have not won the World Cup. They always seem to be star-studded, don't they? And Spain sort of last couple of times out as well. So I forgot about them. They're worth a shout as well, aren't they?
I think Tom looks confused here. I think he means in the year they were in the competition that they didn't win it, Tom. So they were like the best team. Like Spain may have won a World Cup, but I think Chris is trying to say in say for instance '86, Spain were in a World Cup. They were so good that they should have won it, but they didn't because of fuck up or whatever. They were a good enough team that they should have won a World Cup. I think we might be interpreting the question a little bit differently.
Yeah, fair enough.
Gents, we'll push on. The last listener's question comes in from @KenCRW49, and this is a rather nice question to finish on. Name somewhere in the world you'd like to visit. Not necessarily a dream vacation spot, just somewhere you'd like to check out. And this is a nice, sensible question for us to finish up, Chris. So, anywhere in the world you haven't visited or you always dreamt of going to?
I've not been to New York yet. Yeah, I'd love to go to New York, especially over Christmas and New Year. So definitely on my bucket list. So yeah, straightforward. Yeah, New York.
Nice and achievable as well, to be fair.
Yeah, it'll happen. Definitely.
Tom, what about you, buddy? Anywhere in the world you want to go to?
I've always quite liked to go to Scandinavia somewhere. It just seems like a really interesting and quite a different place. So I'll go with Iceland actually, because that just seems like an absolutely nuts country. Like they have like fermented shark and stuff like that, and they've got like all the hot pools and the Northern Lights. And yeah, I'm more of a beach man usually. Like I like the heat, but it just sounds like such a crazy place that I really want to go visit it. It just sounds really cool.
Excellent. And Daz, how about you?
For me, it's Ireland. Me and the missus, we've been talking very much about where we both want to go.
Hang on, can we have a fucking whip round here for Daz getting the 20 quid to get the airline or the Ryanair flight over to Dublin?
Got your very own tour guide as well here.
Yeah. No, me and the missus, we've both never been to Ireland, whereas we've both kind of been to different places. So Ireland's one place that we haven't both been. So we've said that soon we'd love to both go to Ireland. So yeah, Ireland's the next one on the list to tick off for both of us, really.
If you do go to Ireland, I really have to urge you to come in the summer because it's a different country altogether. Like Ireland with the sun shining is a beautiful, beautiful place. But Ireland in the winter time can be still a beautiful place, but a little bit more miserable. And bring your fucking wallet because it's expensive over here, buddy.
Lots of very good Chinese all-you-can-eat buffets, though. So you won't go hungry.
Yeah.
No, you definitely won't go hungry. I mean, you could probably scrounge food for free by just knocking on the door and saying, "Any chance for dinner?" Because they'll just go, "Oh yeah, sure, come in there." Sure, you know, John, did I see you before? Oh yeah, I know, Mick. You know, Mick, I'll come in, sure, and have a cup of tea
and a cake.
The thing about Ireland, you're only ever 2 steps away from knowing somebody. Like somebody knows somebody. You can usually just lie your way into any situation. Gents, FIFA has proposed a revamped and enlarged version of the Club World Cup, and it's planned to start in 2021. The competition would apparently include all European champions, runners-up and Europa League winners from the previous 4 seasons, including the year of the event in 2021. Be held every 4 years instead of annually and would feature 31 games. It's estimated that it would need to generate between $650 million and $1 billion in revenue to be commercially viable for FIFA. As well as the European teams, there would also be 4 or 5 teams from South America, none or possibly just 1 from Oceania, and then 2 each from Asia, CONCUSSIONS and Africa. Teams would be divided into 8 groups of 3, with the group winners are progressing to the next stage. The 4 winners of Europe's Champions League will all qualify along with the runners-up and previous 4 winners from the second-tier Europa League, and the 4 most recent winners of the Copa Libertadores, the South American equivalent of the Champions League, would also take part. Gents, what do we think of this idea? Now, I've quickly just scanned through it there. It's crazy, if you ask me. It's madness and it's more money grabbing, but do we want Liverpool playing in these type of competitions, Tom? Or is it perhaps FIFA trying to step in and stop a breakaway league, for instance, like a pan-European Super League or something, that they might have fears of breaking up Premier League and the Champions League?
I think that's a good show, actually, now that you mention it, because there has been talk over the last season or two about a breakaway kind of thing going on with the top clubs around Europe. And there's even been stuff that I saw today with John Henry saying that the big clubs should get more money in the Premier League. So there is that kind of big club snobbery that is I don't want to say snobbery, but you know what I mean. It's prevalent around Europe, and this stuff's been talked about. Overall, I think it's like they're trying to just really get all of the top clubs together in one thing, like even more so than the Champions League from just like around the world. It's kind of like a club World Cup type thing, which I think it's just too much football. I think if we have this every 4 years and we got the World Cup every 4 years and the Euros every 4 years, then that's only 1 year off every 4 years for these players. So that, and that's club football as well. So that means the season will last for fucking like the whole time. I don't know when they're going to get a break.
Yeah, they're talking about playing it in June, July of 2021. So you're right, it'll go straight through.
So there will be, after a whole season, including Champions League competitions and cup competitions and league, plus then you've got to send your whole team out to do another Club World Cup with tournaments and knockouts and stuff like that. I think that means either two things would have to happen. That one thing would have to happen. That means that the clubs would have to have more players. I think all the clubs in that competition would have to have a lot more players, which is potentially feasible with the amount of money that's been throwing about for some clubs, but not all of them. I mean, some of the clubs from like South America or Australasia or whoever's going to qualify, those clubs are going to have like 2 teams. And what's going to happen to those leagues as well? Because some of those leagues happen in summer, right? In winter countries, for example, or in Scandinavia, their season starts about now, right? Because it's summer, they can't play in winter because it's too cold. So it's an absolute fucking minefield. In my opinion, and I just think it's too much football. I think these players need to have time off because it's so intense now, the game. I mean, can you imagine Liverpool going now into a competition like this after the season we've had in the Champions League and the football that we play? Our team would be fucking shot. You know, the squad's so thin already. There'd be more injuries. I don't know. I feel like it's just a bit too much. I mean, I love football, and I think it'd be great seeing all these amazing teams play each other. It's kind of like a Champions League on steroids. But I don't know, I just think it's too much.
It does seem rather excessive to me as well. Chris, your take on this one from a sensible man's point of view. And as I said, I'm rather emotional at times. I look at this and I just think, like, Tom, fuck off. It's too much football. Stop trying to get more money out of the game.
Firstly, there's no such thing as too much football. No, there isn't. I've got absolutely no problems with more football being played. I much prefer to see players playing with their clubs, with the players they're used to playing with, week in, week out for a tournament in the summer, than going off and playing international football instead. We already play pre-season tournaments. You look at the lineup we've got this summer. Look at the teams we're playing. We're even playing Manchester United, and the old adage, there's no such thing as a friendly. So I've got no problem with it from that point of view. Now, I'm assuming with this that they will remove the World Club Championships that happen every single year anyway.
They only happen as well. It was in December, I think, if I remember correctly.
So they happen during the season. So they actually create fixture congestion. So that competition is going to be replaced with this. And yes, it probably is going to be. It's going to be like Tom put it. It's going to be a World Cup for clubs. Well, I actually prefer club football to international football. I know I'm not alone in that as well. I think the standard of football.
I'm right behind you.
I think even though you can say you've got all of the best Brazilian players in the Brazil side, they don't play together every week. So, I would suggest that Tottenham could beat the Brazil side.
Don't let Tottenham fans hear you saying that, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but it's perhaps true because they play together every single day. It's not just every week. They play together on the training pitch every single day. They know each other's next move, capabilities. There's just continuity all over the pitch, and that adds to better football. And it's a tournament. What you've got to bear in mind is a lot of these players in this competition, they will already have other engagements as well. So this is perhaps the downside, because we know AFCON's now moved to the summer. You've got CONCUSSIONS, Oceania have got their own version. I forget what it's called. So they've got these summer international tournaments all over the world anyway. We only really think about the European Championships and the World Cup, don't we? So what you're perhaps going to find there is players being given a choice on what they want to do. And I do believe that the majority of players, let's say Mo Salah, if Mo Salah is given the option of playing for Liverpool in this what's the competition going to be called? Did you
The
tell
World
me?
Club Cup.
World Club Cup, or representing his country in AFCON. He's going to AFCON, and I'd have absolutely no problem with that. So you do have this problem that Tom brought up where you're looking at shadow squads, but it is a token tournament, bear that in mind. So you're not going to lose all of your players, are you? And, imagine at this point, yes, we've had a tough season. We're going into pre-season with injuries, but we've just picked up Keita and Fabinho as well, haven't we? So you've got that chance there to see your new players in a competition format, and so there's. I think the positives far outweigh the negatives, and no, I don't think there's ever such thing as too much football. So, and yeah, if it generates money, so what? It generates money, I think that's a good thing for your champions of South American competition, African competition, and Oceanic competition, because they really don't see the money, do they? That our clubs in Europe see. They don't get the same adulation. We get to see different players, different styles of play. I'd enjoy it. I really would enjoy it. I'm all for it, to be honest. I
wonder perhaps though, Daz, would we see the Premier League and leagues around the world having a problem with this, because it might infringe on the popularity of their leagues or the viewership that they get for their games? And we've seen the Premier League is the strongest league in the world financially, brings in the most viewers in the world. It's now probably becoming the most popular league for players and managers to come and play in. So do you think a competition like this might take away some of the pull from the Premier League?
Not really. I don't think it will too much. I think the Premier League is the Premier League. I think it's built up to the Premier League and over so many years, to be honest. Yes, this coming in, it will change certain things. There will be some form of change, but I'm not too worried about that. If you ask me, do I want Liverpool to be in it? I want Liverpool to be in anything that the other top teams are in. If there's a chance of Liverpool earning money, I want to be up there because I want to be playing in anything that Liverpool are in. I think as well, I think Chris made some really good points with this. I think with the amount of football, I've seen people talking about this and saying that, with the injuries that Liverpool have got and squad depth and stuff like that, I think with the amount of time that you'd have to prepare for this, I think this also gives you some of your players, it would give them more experience as well. I really do think it would be. We talk so much about you've got the youth players in your team not getting experience and not getting games and stuff like that. I think this also opens up some games for them because throughout a whole year, Klopp will want to play his strongest squad and he will rotate. And I think next year we see more rotation. I mean, if you added a competition like this, you've got more chance of bringing in better players to your team as well, because you can say, look, we're in this competition as well. And you will get more game time because we're in the Premier League, we're in these other cups, we're in the Champions League, then we're in this as well. I think, it all seems positive to me. I see what some people are trying to say, but if other top teams are in it, then I want Liverpool to be in it. Like I said at the beginning, I can't see why anyone would say that it's a negative for Liverpool being in a competition. If all other teams that are in it are in the same boat as us and we're competing with them in the other competitions, then, everyone's in the same boat. So I can't see a negative to that.
Chris, just coming back to something you touched on before we finish up on this, buddy. Are you trying to possibly suggest that something like this, and most of the guys here have agreed with you that it would be a good thing? Myself and Tom thought it might be a bit too much football, but have we looked at this from the wrong perspective? Would this maybe signal an intent to move away from some international football, or to try and take the bigger players out of international football a little bit more? Is that where you were going with your thought process?
I don't think it'd be intentional, but it's going to put the ball in the players' courts, isn't it? You're going to have a chance. I tell you what, biggest example of this is the Indian IPL in cricket. I don't know if any of you guys know much about cricket. A lot of the world's top players leave their county sides and go and play in the IPL for more money. It's more prestigious. It's on a bigger platform, so to speak. And
don't they bid for players and stuff in that?
Yeah, they do.
Teams have budgets and they go and bid for each player.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see perhaps some of that. It is going to create some complexity, isn't it? And I think if you're Liverpool and you're going in to sign Alisson, for example, and you've got this competition, you're going to say to Alisson, okay, your country have got these engagements throughout these months. We've got these, and you look at a contract situation where you say, right, we expect you to honor this contract and play these games. So I think it'll come down. It'll all happen when you're signing players. With regards to players already at the club, I don't know. I think they'll perhaps just get the choice, and I think some players perhaps would prefer to play in this competition than for their international sides. Certainly over friendlies anyway, but where international competitive matches are, the summer tournaments like the European Championships, for example, it's not going to clash with them all, is it? It's going to be worked out so that it doesn't clash, but there's going to be a clash somewhere, unless there's going to be a massive restructuring and all international tournaments around the world are played over the 2 summers that this competition isn't played. Otherwise, it is going to get quite complex. I wouldn't like to call how it would go, but I think if something this big is on the table, I think it's going to happen. It's too big for it to not happen.
I think if FIFA want this to be a success and they want it to be the global showpiece event of their calendar, then it won't work unless they have Pitbull there, Mr. Worldwide. We've seen Dua Lipa and what she did for the Champions League final. Can you imagine Mr. Pitbull there giving it a bit of hotel motel holiday in? Like, I'm telling you, it'll be, there you go. You can have that FIFA. That's from me to you. Take it. It's free. Run with it. Tell Pitbull I said hello. Gents, we push on. The second last thing I want to have a chat about this week, it's transfer window time now. It's craziness. This isn't a transfer podcast, so we won't go into specifics, but I do want to have a little chat about the club making a massive effort, Tom, to stop the leaks of information. We've seen a huge change since the Brendan Rodgers era of stuff not really coming out. A great example being the recent deal for Fabinho that came out of nowhere. Nobody had it. None of the big journalists. We didn't even hear Jimbo Pierce touch on it or even allude to it in any way, shape or form. So as a fan, are you happier to see the club go about their business like this, where you get something just sprung on you out of nowhere? Or do you like to maybe go through the whole process of the link to the player, tracking the planes, where is his agents, the kind of drawn out thing that brings a bit of theatre to it, although a lot of the times we've been let down as Liverpool fans when it gets to the end of this. Well, for you, which is the better way for it to happen?
I think the watershed moment was last year with Van Dijk, because that's when these kind of rumours and that's when leaking information actually caused a negative effect on a transfer, on the team and on money. So I think that was when it really, really tightened up. In terms of what I prefer, I mean, I feel like I'm a grumpy, cynical old man trapped in a young guy's body, and I can't really stand like the whole transfer bullshit kind of stuff. In some ways, I like it. I mean, I think that there's a difference between like ITK'S and giving like random information and tracking planes and vans and stuff like that. That's kind of funny. I like that. Like that's what everyone could get on board with, and that's kind of what Liverpool Twitter is all about for me. Like that kind of stuff's hilarious. But I also like I said, I don't like this constant bullshit that just goes on with like claims and titles and random Twitter accounts that spring up out of nowhere, and people obviously believing like someone that's clearly not connected to anyone. Like it's just that people are just really gullible, unfortunately, and they believe a lot of shit, and that's what I don't like about it. But in terms of tracking,
you're trying
people,
to say to me
like
that 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old young lads don't have internal links to Liverpool Football Club from their parents' bedrooms?
It's not even them that's the worst ones. It's the grown men that piss me off. You should know fucking better. You're an adult and you're saying this shit. Like, come on, man. Fucking grow up. Jesus. You've literally got like 13-year-olds on the fucking fish line and you think you're the dog's bollocks. You're an absolute waste, man. Get the fuck off my timeline. But the actual links and stuff like that, then that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And tracking plays, that's hilarious. But yeah.
I suppose it leads on from this, Tom, but before I come on to the two lads, where do you stand on this new kind of new fathom thing of the way they announce players, the way clubs are trying to outdo each other, and how the little promotional videos work. I mean, Salah announced was probably the best one in the world, but the worst one I've ever seen was most definitely that plank at United playing the piano.
Yes.
That was a fucking shambles.
Exactly. I think that's where it peaked, and I think that's where that trend has hopefully died and crashed and burned, because he's flopped and everyone just like wrecks him for it and uses that piano as like a meme for him. I think it's hard to get right and very easy to get wrong with those like transfer reveal things. I mean, the Salah revealed or something like that, that's fair enough. You know, we were like people constantly atting Liverpool like, oh, announce Salah. So that was like an actual thing. Whereas Sanchez,
I honestly didn't know what he said, by the way, when he looked up from the phone. I genuinely hadn't got it. I was like, what the fuck is this about?
But then Sanchez like playing the piano and just like standing at Old Trafford and kind of like huffing and smiling and sighing at the same time was just a bit like, well, where's the link to that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if he's got his dogs out on the pitch, fair enough. Like, that's funny. Everyone knows he loves his dogs. But him like playing the piano to some crappy little old McDonald's shit, like in the middle of fucking Old Trafford, like, oh my god, like, what is that? And there's been some that have been good. You know, Roma are quite good on their social media, and
Did
some
they
of their
have the
announcements
FIFA
are quite
player
funny.
one? Was that Roma? They were playing FIFA or something.
It might have been, yeah. But that's the thing. There's so many now that they just get lost in all the bullshit for me. They're just part of that bullshit. But I quite like Fabinho out of nowhere, probably because I was still really sore from the Champions League. But yeah, that was just it was funny because literally no one knew anything. Like, he'd been linked to United for about 3-4 years. There wasn't even a
They
hint
didn't
of a
want them,
rumor.
Tom. They always wanted Fred.
No,
This was
I mean,
just smoke
excuse
screen.
me. Smokescreen United. But like I said, he wasn't even linked in like the Express or the Mail, or not even a whisper. And then just out of nowhere, bam, Fabinho, proper
Not even
defensive
a hint from
midfielder.
little Jimmy's bedroom down in Suffolk.
Exactly. I feel like Jimmy has actually got a bit out of the loop, you know. I feel like
I didn't
Jimmy's
mean
a bit out
that
of the loop.
Jimmy. I meant a little 19-year-old idiot in his ma's bedroom making up transfer rumours. It's just Jimmy must have just popped into my head because of, and I'm not slagging James Pearce. We love James Pearce. James Pearce is Mr. Reliable and Mr. Bad News a lot of the time, unfortunately. But he tells it like it is, Tom. So we won't ever slag off Mr. James Pearce on this podcast.
Well, I don't know. Time will tell.
Chris, it's not quite the same as these cheesy videos, but I absolutely adored the way Bobby Firmino signed his new contract. That to me was just legendary. Just walks in, no look, signs the contract, pisses off, back out of the room. Done. Didn't cost him a fucking penny to make that.
He was whistling LA, LA, LA as he walked out as well. It was a nice little touch. I've got no preference into how transfer dealings are dealt with in terms of how reveals are done. I do often think simple's best. I like the way Barcelona do their reveal. I'm not sure if they do anything else sort of online, but
what you mean by putting out fucking Coutinho shirts and the the Barcelona Nike store?
Yeah, on the Coutinho one, you know, they just get him into the ground, don't they? Do a little bit of a backdrop in there, ask him to do a few kick-ups, say hello, and then off he goes. And
Paulinho nailed that. Paulinho's nailed them kick-ups, and then nobody can compete after Paulinho's attempt.
You know, when all's said and done, particularly in the modern game, and particularly with younger fans now, I think there has to be a little bit more razzmatazz, and I think us older heads have to just put up with it and go along with it. If we want all of the money in the world to overspend on goalkeepers, then we're going to have to put up with all the shite that the media like to do to promote the players and the clubs and the brands and whatnot. So I think we're going to have to put up with it. And if it works, it works. It's fine. Go for it. I don't mind. It doesn't really affect what happens on 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, does it? So I'm not particularly bothered. With regards to the way we've tightened up, it's nice, but also it's quite annoying as well, because there is something nice about the whole tracking from a rumor to a link, or right the way through to the transfer, right the way through to the bitter end. There's something quite nice, especially in the Twitter era. It's been enjoyable. So I think the only plus point I can think of about it tightening up, really, well, there's 2 plus points. 1, we don't get another Van Dijk situation. And 2, ITK'S looking like absolute bellends. It's fucking brilliant, isn't it? So
we'll get to them, and I have a little section saved just for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure out there is somebody who is actually in the know and does know somebody who passes them some information. There's got to be one somewhere, surely. And he's just now gutted, isn't he? Because all these other little gobshites have come out the woodwork pretending they know shit, ruining it for him. So he's probably sitting there now thinking, oh, thank fuck for this, isn't he? So,
True. I mean, you can't win some of the times, but we will come on to the ITK situation in a minute. But the guys you're talking about there, Chris, they could get 9 out of 10 things right. And the one transfer, like maybe Van Dijk coming in the summer and then not coming until January, that still happens or something, but they get it slightly wrong. Then they're just called a con artist then.
Well, if you throw enough shit at a wall, some of it's going to stick. I could do that. I could set up a Twitter account now and, you know.
Do you want, Tom has one there, ITK'S. Do you want access to it?
Oh, saw a brilliant one from him earlier. What was it?
He's all right. He's become a parody of himself.
I think he's doing it on purpose now.
Yeah, he was being serious, and it was obviously bollocks. But now he literally just takes a piss out of himself. But the worst thing is that people still believe these guys. Like, not just him, but that's what I mean, Chris. Like, people actually follow these people, and I'm just like, no, like, why?
You can't protect the world from stupidity, though, Tom.
Well, that's just it. That's just it. We're having a go at the ITK'S. Like, you've got to think more about the people who are actually believing them, you know.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, why? Why do you follow these people?
They want to. They want to believe. We all want to believe. It's like Father Christmas. Not that he's not real, but we just want to believe in the magic, don't we? We just want to believe that, the Easter Bunny's real and things like that.
I want to believe that I'm not haunted by a crow, but it's not fucking true, is it? So there we go.
It goes back to what I said. Basically, what I said about like enjoying the, you know, from the rumor to the link through to the signing, enjoying that little journey, and what Tom said, you know, all of the shit that comes with it, like the tracking of planes and so on and so forth. How many silver Mercedes are outside Speak Airport? You know,
the club are going to have about 11 of them lined up going in opposite directions the next time.
You know, and it's good fun.
It's like the Italian job. I don't take them all round different.
You got to be some miserable sod, haven't you, not to enjoy all that stuff. So, you know, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me either way. It's nice that they've tightened it up. There's no leaks and we're not going to get another Van Dijk situation, but it is fun to know a few things as well, isn't it?
Daz, idea, buddy. DC United revealing Wayne Rooney. Picture this. 2 women in a park standing there minding their own business. This lad strolls up DC United tracksuit. Hi, love. Have you seen this baby pigeon?
What the hell?
No.
Are you on about the top of his head?
No, I'm going full on your mate here, Chris.
Oh, no.
You sure they weren't grannies, Craig? You sure they weren't old women?
I didn't want to go stereotype, Tom. I was thinking that. I was going to say 2 elderly ladies going for a walk in the park.
Everyone would be thinking that. Everyone would have been thinking that. Talking about what I would prefer with transfers and stuff like that. I can't get that image out of my head now. I wrote it. Yes. Talking about what I prefer. I really liked the way Liverpool announced Fabinho. I really liked that we didn't know that was coming, and then it was like wham, like yes, we've signed ourselves what looks to be a quality player. I like it when there's a bit of both, to be honest. I like it when you've got that bit of excitement with a player, you're tracking one, like you guys have already touched on. You're doing what Liverpool fans like to do, track the planes, check for the cars and stuff like that. But yeah, when you've got the odd signing that you don't know about, when Liverpool are keeping quiet about everything, I think that's good. I think that's probably the way the business should be done if you keep it quiet. You know, it's for Liverpool, it's a business. They don't want people to know what's going on there. You saw what happened with the Van Dijk stuff. Players get tapped up and stuff all the time. So I was a little bit shocked when that started coming out, and it is because things get leaked and clubs want to save face. So yeah, if that means that people in Liverpool have to keep quiet over stuff, and so be it. You know what I mean? I think a lot of us Liverpool fans will sit here and say exactly the same. If that means that we don't see a player coming until the last hour or two, I'll take that. If it means that we sign a player there and then instead of have to wait another 6 months or possibly get a warning over something, you know, it's silly stuff. But for me, I enjoy watching how Liverpool fans react to stuff, but I also enjoyed it when we didn't know at all what was coming. And then next minute, Fabinho's in your face, you know, he's wearing a Liverpool top and stuff. I thought that was brilliant. I liked the surprise element as well. So either way, I'm the same. It doesn't bother me.
We did brilliantly, Daz, yesterday, didn't we? Keeping Fekir's medical under wraps and nobody getting a picture of it. Him and his agent flying in for that medical yesterday.
As brilliant as the Fabinho thing was, it's kind of making a mockery of all these links to all these other players. You've got to be questioning how true they are now. I mean, are we after Alisson or Oblak or even Fekir? I believe the Fekir one. I just think Lyon's president's a bit of a... He likes to chance his arm at getting more money, doesn't he? Which is fair play to him.
He's a poor man, Ralph Rangnick. That's all he is.
Yeah. But you've got to call into question whether all that's true. Are we really after Alisson and Oblak? I'm not saying we're not after a goalkeeper. What I mean is we were hearing Jorginho, we were hearing other names, and then literally out of nowhere, poof, you've got Fabinho, haven't you? So
on the flip side to that, though, Chris, and I get what you're saying, but on the flip side, it also means that you can't rule it out because literally anything can happen out of the blue like that. So everyone's doubting Fekir, like, oh, Leon, they're playing hardball, etc., etc. I mean, we still got like a week and a bit until the World Cup. He could quite easily be announced in like 2 or 3 days, and that wouldn't surprise me.
Because there's not much time after the World Cup either. Yeah. So you've got to think about the player going to the club and going, look,
even after the World Cup, like I'm actually relatively relaxed right now because it's still super early in the window, and I still believe that anything can happen. And particularly with Fekir,
bear in mind, there's not much window left after the World Cup because it's all been rolled forward, hasn't it? That is true.
So, negotiations can happen at the World Cup, I think, as well. But with Fekir, it's like with Keita, like with Van Dijk, Klopp has always been able to wait, for a very long time. In fact, 6 months for Van Dijk, a whole season for Keita, and still paying big money for them. So if he's prepared to wait for those two players, for the ones that he wants, to me, Fekir looks like a top target because we've been linked with him very, very strongly. I'm actually, and this is coming from a pessimist here, I'm relatively confident as of today that we will get him at some point. All the signals are there for me.
He's definitely the master of tantric transfers, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I think the difference with him is he's the one where people like James Pearce have come out and basically nailed the colours to the mast and said, we want this player. We're going to step up efforts for him. Whereas all the others are a bit more, sort of from other quarters where we've seen links to players from these people where it's never come to fruition, and none of these people ever said, oh, by the way, Liverpool are in for Fabinho. So, it's more them I'm looking at. I think the Fekir one's very different, isn't it? I think that one is a nailed on target regardless of whether we get him. He is a nailed on target, isn't he? We can't really dispute that one.
Right, gents, last topic, and we kind of touched on it earlier on. Daz, I want to have a little chat about ITK'S, mate. Are we starting to see the death of ITK'S? And again, if anybody who does know what an ITK is, if you're not on Twitter or Facebook or social media, we call people that claim to be in the know an ITK because they claim to have inside information on specific deals or transfers or salaries or things like that about players. Daz, are we seeing these ITKs now being called out on Twitter so much and being exposed by people as the frauds that most of them are? Are we seeing the death of them on Twitter, or are we just kind of weeding them out and getting the better ones?
I think they will always be around because I think, like you guys were saying earlier, you will always have people out there, no matter how much you put it in their face and say to them. I mean, even you will probably have it, but if you say to someone, I don't know anything, but you're related to Liverpool in any way, shape or form, like we talk about Liverpool Football Club, you could say until you're blue in the face, I don't know anyone at Liverpool Football Club, but they will still say to you, but is Fekir happening? I get that all the time. And I say, but the only source that I have in Liverpool is mayonnaise from when I had my chips here last week. It's silly things like that. But these in the knows, they are being exposed more and more, because people are cottoning on to the fact that no one knew about Fabinho this window. Liverpool are doing business better these days. We've got the right people in to do the business quietly and fast. But at the same time, you will always have an army of people that it's not that maybe they're naive to it, but I think what I find is there's a lot of people out there that they just don't have the time in the day with work, with college, with school, exams, things like that. They haven't got the time to do the digging themselves. So when you've got someone online that says that they've got a source or they know something, if they put something out, people might only have 2 seconds of their day when they're traveling to work or whatever to look at something. If a lot of people follow these people, they genuinely might believe that this is someone that is in the know. So I don't know. I don't know whether they will ever fully die out, to be honest, because for me. A lot of these people are mass followed, aren't they? So people follow people that have already got a following. That's the trouble that you've got there.
As you touched on people asking you, and you run a very popular Liverpool YouTube account called On The Bench LFC. You do a lot of live stuff on there, a lot of interacting with your subscribers and stuff. One, this is the chance to give yourself a bit of a plug, by the way, buddy. If you've anything coming up this week you want to let the listeners know about, and by all means, please do. But are they the type of questions that you keep getting asked when you're doing your live chats, even though you might have said, I don't know, I've no idea? Do people still come to you and say, Daz, have you heard about this, or have you heard about that?
Yeah, every single day. It's really hard because every single live stream, I mean, I live stream every single day, like you say, on my channel and stuff. I try to every day, and every single live stream I find myself having to say the same thing. I don't know anyone at Liverpool. I'm not best friends with Fakir on Instagram. You know, he doesn't follow me and stuff like that, but you've constantly got these people that literally 2 seconds after you say it go, Daz, what's the latest on Fakir? Like, is that deal happening? Daz, do you know whether this is happening? I think what it is people are so desperate to know the truth. And because Liverpool aren't releasing anything, because the trusted journalists aren't saying anything about it, people are going to anyone now. It's like a desperate measures. People are just trying to find any kind of source to find it. And it doesn't matter. Like I say, I'm proof of that. I don't know anyone, and I can literally say that to people's face, and it's like they just let it in one ear and out the other, and they still would believe it. If I sat there on my live stream tomorrow and said, someone has told me that Fakir is going to be in Liverpool tomorrow, it's going to be done, I guarantee there will be a lot of people that will just take my word for it, even though I've clearly said 2 minutes before, I have no sources. I don't know anyone. I'm just a Liverpool supporter. That's what it is. I think it is just people are desperate because the Liverpool journalists are trusted ones. They're not releasing anything. And I think that's what it is. It is just everyone just needs some information. Everyone needs their fix on transfers. It's hot topics.
Chris, May, what's happening with Fakir?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know anybody at the club. and I keep, even though...
We need to go to ITK'S school here, lads. We're shocked.
A lot of my... Well, the funny thing is a lot of my listeners, they're from the Northwest, and they're forever asking me, why do Southerners put mayonnaise on the chips? So back over to you, Daz.
Because it's the nuts. That's why. No.
They actually did that for you in Liverpool.
Well, I had to do it myself.
It's like a prerequisite in Liverpool. You ask for chips, you just get half rice, half chips, and curry. I just thought that was like the standard. Like
cheesy curry chips are the in thing over here now, by the way, in Ireland.
Tell a lot about Pearson by what he has on his chips, can't you? No.
What does Fakir have on his chips?
Do you know what? I wonder how many people are though who get involved in podcasts or become quite well known on Twitter or whatever. Start getting asked questions because people will assume and then play up to it, and then all of a sudden they realise they're onto something gold and just go along with it.
We can name a few of them.
Rather than set out on it, it'd be very easy for somebody to think, do you know what, these lads on this podcast, they sound really knowledgeable. Do you know what, they must know people at the club. Let's start asking them questions, and then just something inside you goes, well, the brother of the cleaner who cleans the toilets overheard Mornay talking to Edwards about one of his African teammates signing for the club or whatever, you know what I mean? And just come out with some absolute bullshit like that, and people will eat out of your hands. If you say anything convincingly enough, people will believe it, won't they? And it's like chicken all behaviour, if you ask me. I don't agree with it. If you know nothing, don't say anything. Simple as that.
Tom, I can definitely talk about some of those people, but I won't do it on this edition of the podcast. But I can certainly talk about some of those people who claim to be up on information that know absolutely fuck all, and I know from a fact that they know fuck all. But it does work if you're on Twitter to just get followers and up those followers to possibly either sell on your account or bring in betting companies to start spamming betting links and things like that. It does work. I've seen accounts grow massively over one summer by just putting out bullshit information and letting it be wrong. I mean, that doesn't seem to matter. People will still believe it, as you've suggested. Like maybe 6 out of 10 might believe it, or 5 out of 10 might believe it. But there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people on Twitter, so that gives you a big audience.
Yeah, you're right, and it's like the nature of the beast. That's just how it works on Twitter. People see that, they follow it, they like it, and yeah, people somehow make social media careers off of it as well. And like has already been said, even though the links and rumours have tightened up a lot from Liverpool, still some of these people and accounts, etc., still have a following, get a good following from it, and get good engagement because, I think, like Dad said, I think people do need their fix, which is kind of sad, really, because I feel like if you follow, you only need to follow, I reckon, probably about 5 to 10 respected journalists and have your notifications on. And if you follow them really closely, you're going to get a very good idea and apply some logic as well. You're going to get a very good idea. Yeah, you're going to get.
That's where you've gone wrong. That's where you've gone wrong, Tom. You brought logic into this.
Well, that's what I just mean that there's stuff that I've noticed and I've seen people talk about. So there's the usual suspects there's a couple of journalists that are obviously fed by the same source, because you read some of their articles and there's snippets of it that are worded almost exactly the same, and that's just logic. Like you read that, so you can get a decent idea of who's connected to who. And what who said what, etc., etc. But like I was saying,
you might even say that some sites are more closely worded than other sites, Tom, to specific stories.
You could say that as well, yeah. And that's when you got to start applying some logic and realizing, oh look, they're just a copy and paste merchant. Let's not follow them, and let's actually follow someone credible that does actual work and investigative journalism, and that'll be really good. But that's an ideal world, and unfortunately, Twitter is not an ideal world, sadly. But honestly, you can follow about 5 to 10 connected journalists and people in general, or article writers, and you can get a really good idea of what the transfer landscape is right now. You can even have a good inside track. I follow, even just following like Paul Joyce, James Pearce, etc., and all that. You can have, for people that don't follow those people, with people that support other clubs or your mates or whoever that don't know about that, then you can still act like you have a really good knowledge of like transfers and stuff like that. I mean, I've played that game. I've been like, yeah, no, my sources say this to my mates, like to my actual mates. And it's obviously it's just like James Pearce about like 2-3 years ago or something like that. I've done that. I've genuinely said that.
Pros don't count as mates.
Well, he believes it, so and he's coming back for more. It's the nature of the beast, Craig. He's coming back for more, and he needs his fix of transfer goodies.
I would add Melissa Reddy to that list of respected journalists as well. Yeah. I think she's very, especially for Liverpool Football Club, I believe she's very close, and writes some excellent articles as well.
Listen, look, if people want a list of respected journalists you should follow and a list of people that you shouldn't follow, I can quite happily give that to you. If you really want to, so follow me on Twitter or whatever. But honestly, it's not hard to get a really good and actual credible view of what transfers are going to be. So yeah, just if it sounds good to be true
on Twitter there for that list of bullshit accounts, because I'm hitting them up straight after the show for that list.
At Liverpool True, there we go. Hit me up. If someone has to qualify themselves as an ITK or say, oh, I know this, or have a little emoji of a handshake or some eyes or something like that, then they're not worth listening to. I'm sorry, but they're just not. So just don't.
There's the other way around this, I suppose. Touching on the ITKs, you can be an ITK but just pawn the story off on somebody else. So you can just reprint the story and say headline: Liverpool or today, for instance, Real Madrid are going to sign Sadio Mane, and then in small little writing underneath, source whatever the bullshit rumor is, Don Ballon or whatever it is.
Yeah, so that's the main ones that I see. So many people just retweet, or they copy and then they paste it as their own tweet or whatever, or they reword it slightly and use it as theirs, but they always source someone else. Something I always say to people, when people ask me about transfers and they say, what do you go off, what do you look for? I always say, look for quotations. That's also something that you always look for. I always say, if I'm looking for something, if you're using common sense, look for wording, look for, if someone's genuinely, a manager speaking about something, I always look for their quotation marks. I always look for what a manager said said about a transfer. If a manager's speaking about player, if a player's speaking about a move or whatever, you can kind of get a gist of whether a player is thinking possibly about moving in a window or not. If they're adamant in their speaking about staying at a club and they keep using we about playing next year, I often say I think, well, it looks like he's going to start at that club, you know, but anything can change in football. So I say to people, when these in the nose come out and go, oh, this player is definitely going to go, or they're definitely not going to go. Look, you can't say that, because football is you can't say anything in football. That's why I love it. And that's the same with transfers. Anything can happen. A player can be adamant that they're staying at a club right up until a big team comes in for them with a big fee. They offer them lots of money, and then all of a sudden that player goes, actually, I think I might decide to go to this team and play my football there next year. That can happen. So I don't like it when people lead people on and say, this is definitely not happening. That's definitely going to happen, because anything can happen in football. This Fekir stuff that has gone on for so long, there's no smoke without fire. So I believe that he's a target. But at the same hand, last second, another team could come in there and offer him something better. Or Liverpool could just decide, do you know what? We're not going to be strung out for that much money off Leon. There's another target out there that Klopp has decided can do just as good of a job, but for less money. So we just got to back whatever Liverpool decide and whatever Klopp decides. But I had a bit of a funny thought as well. We were talking about everyone needs their fix and stuff. Maybe we should create like a little group, because there's groups of everything where people can go to and stand up and say, look, I've got an addiction to this. Maybe we should do that for people for in the nose and stuff, where you stand up and say, I'm addicted to transfer rumours. You know, I will do that. I am Daz. I'm addicted to transfer gossip.
12, 2-step program. Are you an ITK? Yes. Fuck off.
There's the door.
Chris, have you any last words of wisdom or advice to anybody around this transfer window, or where to look for reputable links or where not to look for them?
Oh, Tom nailed it, didn't he? That, and if the opening line or gambit is it is of our understanding, stop reading after that point. Just don't bother. No,
that's a good one. I've often seen Sky Sports sources suggest.
Oh, they're the worst. Sky sources.
Never a hint of a name of a source.
They use Twitter.
Yeah, they just look at
use
Twitter.
ITK'S off Twitter. It's
Why
ridiculous.
do people believe Sky Sports? People always go, I believe it when it's on Sky. No, don't.
No. Sky Sports is at the low end of the credibility score. If it's on BBC Sport, that is basically gospel. Like, that has come from on high, and that is in the pastures of the Lord of football, right? If it comes from Sky Sports, it's a no. It's basically bollocks.
If it's on Anfield Agenda, it's mint. It's
It's on
100%.
Anfield Agenda is god tier above BBC Sport. So there we go.
I can't think of a better way of finishing than that, gents.
We let BBC release news, don't we?
Exactly.
That's it. We took over CFAX. They knew we were coming along, so they packed up CFAX and got rid of it. And just they sold Chris a mug with the CFAX image on it, by the way, which he does drink his tea out of quite. There he is. He's using it now.
Nice.
There you go. Perfect. Right, gents, I think we're going to leave it there. Massive thank you, as always, to Tom, to Chris, and to Daz from On The Bench LFC for joining us. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, up the Reds.